The crystalline walls of the Vorthak Command Center hummed with bioluminescent data streams as Kira stood before the Council of Elders. Her two hands remained clasped behind her back, her two legs steady despite the weight of the moment. The chamber's ethereal glow reflected off her naturally pale skin, though soon that would change. Everything about her would change for this mission. Operative Kira. Elder Thane's voice resonated through the chamber, each word carrying the gravity of their species' desperation. The survival of our people rests upon your success. Kira's dark eyes fixed on the holographic display materializing before her. A human male appeared, tall, with kind eyes, and an easy smile that seemed to radiate warmth even through the cold projection. Dr. Liam Cross, the display read, along with streams of data about his work, his life, his unknowing importance to the fate of two worlds. His neural patterns are unlike any we've encountered, Elder Nyx explained, her ancient fingers tracing patterns in the air that made the hologram rotate. Our preliminary scans from orbit detected electromagnetic signatures that suggest unprecedented empathic capabilities. If weaponized, he could influence our entire species telepathically. If harnessed correctly, he might provide the key to our genetic salvation. Kira studied the human's face, memorizing every detail. Liam Cross appeared to be in his early 30s, with dark hair that fell slightly across his forehead and eyes that held an intelligence tempered by compassion. There was something unsettling about how human emotions seemed to play across his features, so different from the controlled expressions of her own people. Your mission parameters are absolute, Elder Thane continued. Infiltrate human society. Study the target. Determine whether he poses a threat or offers salvation. Extract genetic samples for analysis. Complete your assignment within one planetary rotation. And if he proves dangerous, Kira asked, though she already knew the answer, then he must be eliminated before he can realize his potential. The weight of potential genocide settled on Kira's shoulders. She had trained for this moment her entire life. To be the perfect operative, emotion suppressed, duty paramount. Her people were dying, their genetic diversity collapsing after centuries of isolation. If this human held the key to their survival, she would find it. If he threatened their existence, she would end him. The infiltration technology has been perfected. Elder Nyx gestured to a small device that materialized on the platform before Kira. This biomodulator will alter your cellular structure to match human physiology perfectly. You will need to maintain physical contact with it daily to sustain the illusion. Kira picked up the device, no larger than her palm, warm to the touch and humming with barely contained energy. The moment it contacted her skin, she felt the change beginning. Her naturally luminescent skin dulled to human tones, her slightly elongated limbs adjusted to human proportions, and her enhanced sensory organs recalibrated to human limitations. Your cover identity has been established. Elder Thane's voice seemed more distant now as her hearing adjusted. Dr. Kira Thorne, visiting researcher from the European Neural Sciences Institute. Your credentials are flawless. Your background unquestionable. You will approach the target through professional channels. As the transformation completed, Kira caught her reflection in the chamber's metallic surface. She looked perfectly human now, attractive in the way humans valued, with intelligent eyes and a figure that would help her blend into their society. But beneath the surface, she remained Vorthak, with all the enhanced capabilities that entailed. Remember, Elder Nyx's final warning echoed as the transport pod prepared for departure. Emotional attachment is the greatest threat to mission success. Humans are known for their capacity to inspire irrational loyalty in other species. You must remain immune to such manipulation. Kira nodded, her newly human fingers closing around the biomodulator. I understand, Elder. The mission will be completed. But as her transport pod broke through Earth's atmosphere, carrying her toward an alien world and an unsuspecting human who held the fate of two species in his hands, Kira couldn't shake the image of Liam Cross's kind eyes. There had been something in his expression, a depth of feeling that her people had long since suppressed in themselves. The sprawling city of Boston stretched below her as the pod descended toward the coordinates she'd been given. Somewhere in that maze of concrete and steel, Liam Cross continued his research, unaware that his life was about to change forever. Unaware that a genetically superior alien operative was coming to study him, judge him, and potentially destroy him.
As Kira prepared to begin her mission, she touched the biomodulator one final time, feeling its warm pulse against her paw. In 72 hours, she would need to make her report. In 72 hours, she would decide whether Liam Cross lived or died. She just hadn't expected to care about the answer. The Cambridge University Symposium on Consciousness Studies buzzed with intellectual energy as Kira adjusted her tailored blazer and surveyed the crowd. 3 days of careful observation had taught her that humans gathered in such environments to share knowledge, a concept both fascinating and foreign to her species. Who guarded information jealously. She spotted Liam Cross immediately. He stood near the coffee station, gesturing animatedly to a small group of colleagues, his eyes lighting up as he explained some complex theory. Even from across the room, Kira could sense something different about him, a warmth that seemed to radiate beyond normal human parameters. Dr. Cross's work on neural plasticity is groundbreaking, she said, approaching the group with calculated confidence. I'm Dr. Kira Thorne, visiting from the European Neural Sciences Institute. I've been following your research on emotional resonance patterns. Liam turned toward her, and for a moment, Kira felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. Something her vorthic physiology shouldn't have been capable of experiencing. His smile was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way that made her biomodulator pulse slightly against her skin. Dr. Thorne, I've actually read your paper on cross-species empathic responses, Liam said, extending his hand. The moment their skin made contact, Kira felt a jolt of electricity that had nothing to do with static. Your theoretical framework on emotional contagion was brilliant. The paper he referenced was one of many her people had fabricated for her cover, but his enthusiasm made her feel oddly guilty about the deception. Thank you. I'd love to discuss your latest findings on the neural mechanisms of compassion. Your hypothesis about mirror neurons having quantum entanglement properties is ... intriguing. As the group dispersed, Liam lingered, clearly eager to continue the conversation. Would you like to grab dinner? There's a quiet place nearby. Where? We could talk without all this noise. Kira's training screamed warnings: unnecessary proximity, informal settings, potential emotional manipulation. But her mission required close observation, and what better way to study her target than in a relaxed environment where his guard would be down? I'd like that, she heard herself say. The restaurant was intimate, lit by candles that cast dancing shadows across Liam's face as he spoke passionately about his work. Kira found herself genuinely engaged, not just as an operative gathering intelligence, but as someone fascinated by his unique perspective on consciousness and connection. Most researchers focus on the mechanical aspects of neural function, Liam explained, his hands moving expressively as he spoke. But I believe consciousness isn't just about electrical impulses and chemical reactions. There's something more, a resonance that connects all sentient beings. Kira's breath caught. His words echoed theories her own people had dismissed centuries ago when they chose isolation over connection. You mean like ... telepathic abilities? Not exactly telepathy. Liam leaned forward, his eyes intense. More like emotional quantum entanglement. The ability to truly feel what another being experiences, to share not just understanding, but actual sensation and emotion. Every word sent ripples through Kira's carefully controlled composure. Her species possessed exactly what he described, the ability to share experiences directly, mind to mind. It was why they feared his potential so deeply. if he could somehow tap into that ability and turn it against them. Have you ever experienced anything like that yourself? She asked carefully. Liam's expression grew thoughtful, almost vulnerable. Sometimes, with certain people, I feel more connected than normal human interaction should allow. Like there's a deeper current running beneath the surface of conversation. He looked directly at her. I'm feeling it right now, actually. Kira's biomodulator pulsed more rapidly against her skin, and she realized with growing alarm that she was feeling it, too. Whatever rare ability Liam possessed was somehow interacting with her alien physiology, creating a bridge between their consciousness that shouldn't have been possible. That's fascinating from a research perspective, she managed, trying to maintain professional distance, even as every instinct urged her to lean closer, to explore this unprecedented connection. Research, Liam smiled, but there was disappointment in his eyes. Right, of course. The evening continued with discussions that ranged from professional to personal, and Kira found herself sharing carefully edited versions of her own thoughts and experiences. When Liam spoke about his childhood, his dreams, his fears about whether his work would ever make a real difference in the world, she felt each emotion as if it were her own dot by the time they parted ways outside the restaurant. Kira's carefully structured mission parameters were beginning to fracture. As Liam's fingers brushed hers in a lingering goodbye, the connection between them intensified, sending waves of sensation through her altered nervous system. I'd love to continue this conversation, he said softly. Maybe you could visit my lab tomorrow? I could show you some of the equipment I've been using to measure emotional resonance patterns. Yes, Kira replied without thinking, then caught herself. For research purposes, of course. Of course, Liam agreed, but his smile suggested he understood there was more to it than research. Walking back to her temporary apartment, Kira tried to analyze what had happened. Liam's empathic abilities were clearly more developed than her people had realized, but instead of making him a threat, they made him irresistible. Her vorthic biology was responding to his presence in ways that suggested compatibility rather than danger. She activated her communication device and sent a brief report to her handlers. Initial contact established. Target shows advanced empathic capabilities. Continuing observation phase. What she didn't report was the way her pulse quickened when she thought about seeing him again, or how his laugh seemed to resonate in frequencies that touched something deep within her alien consciousness. She didn't mention that for the first time in her life. She understood what her people had lost when they chose isolation over connection. As she prepared for sleep, Kira's fingers found the biomodulator at her throat. In 69 hours, she would need to make her final report. In 69 hours, she would need to decide Liam's fate. But tonight, she fell asleep, thinking about the warmth in his eyes and the way his presence made her feel more alive than she ever had before. Liam's laboratory was a testament to human ingenuity. Walls lined with monitors displaying brain scans, tables covered with sensors and neural mapping equipment, and at the center of it all, a chair that looked more like a piece of art than scientific apparatus. This is my emotion resonance detector, Liam explained, running his hand along the smooth surface. It measures electromagnetic patterns that correspond to different emotional states. I've been trying to prove that empathy creates actual, measurable energy exchanges between individuals. Kira studied the equipment with genuine fascination. Her people had similar technology, but far more advanced. What impressed her wasn't the sophistication. It was that Liam had developed this with limited human resources, driven purely by intuition and determination. Would you be willing to help me test it? He asked, his voice carrying a hint of nervousness. I need 2 subjects to measure the energy exchange during emotional connection. Every protocol in Kira's training warned against such exposure. The scanners might detect her alien physiology, despite the biomodulator's disguise. But the scientist in her, both Vorthik and her assumed human identity, was curious about what the machines would reveal. "What would we need to do?" she asked. "Just sit close together, make eye contact, and try to ... connect. Share a memory, an emotion, something meaningful." Liam began adjusting the equipment, his movements betraying excitement mixed with anticipation. Kira settled into one of the chairs, hyper-aware of every sensation, as Liam positioned sensors around her head and chest. His fingers brushed her skin as he adjusted the contacts, and each touch sent ripples of energy through her nervous system that she hoped the machines wouldn't detect. "Ready?" he asked, taking his place in the opposite chair, their knees almost touching. Kira nodded, meeting his gaze. The moment their eyes locked, she felt the now familiar electric connection spark between them, stronger than ever before. The monitors around them began displaying patterns she recognized from Vorthik technology, the distinctive waves that indicated telepathic resonance. "Tell me about something that changed you," Liam said softly, his voice taking on an almost hypnotic quality. "A moment that made you who you are." Without thinking, Kira found herself sharing not the fabricated memories of her cover identity, but something real. "I was very young when I first saw the stars from space," she said, the truth spilling out before she could stop it. "The beauty of it, the vastness ... It made me realize how small we all are, but also how connected everything is across the universe." As she spoke, she could feel Liam's consciousness reaching toward hers, their empathic abilities intertwining in ways that transcended species boundaries. The monitors around them registered impossible readings, energy patterns that shouldn't exist in human subjects. "I can feel it," Liam whispered, his eyes widening with wonder. "I can actually feel what you felt, seeing space for the first time. The awe, the loneliness, the ... wait." His expression shifted, confusion replacing wonder. "Kira, these readings, they're not like anything I've ever measured before." Panic flared in Kira's chest, but before she could respond, Liam reached out and took her hands. The physical contact amplified their connection exponentially, and suddenly they were sharing more than memories. They were experiencing each other's emotions, thoughts, even physical sensations in real time. Through their link, Kira felt Liam's scientific curiosity transform into something deeper: desire, fascination, and a tenderness that made her alien heart race. At the same time, she realized he was sensing her thoughts, her feelings, including the growing conflict between duty and desire that threatened to tear her apart. "Kira," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "what are you?" The question hung between them, loaded with implications that could destroy everything. But in that moment, connected to him more intimately than she'd ever been with anyone of her own species, Kira found herself incapable of lies. I'm not entirely human," she admitted, watching his face for signs of fear or rejection. Instead of pulling away, Liam's grip on her hands tightened. "I know," he said simply. "I've known since yesterday. Your energy signature is unlike anything on Earth. But I don't care what you are. I care about who you are." The acceptance in his voice broke something loose inside Kira's chest. Before she could second-guess herself, she leaned forward and kissed him, pouring all of her confusion and desire and desperate longing into the contact. Liam responded immediately, his arms circling her as their connection deepened beyond the merely physical. Through their empathic link, Kira experienced his desire as her own, the way her presence affected him, the warmth that spread through his body at her touch, the overwhelming rightness he felt at their connection. They moved together with desperate urgency, hands exploring, barriers falling away, both physical and emotional. When Liam's lips traced the line of her throat, he paused at the spot where her biomodulator rested against her skin. "This is how you look human," he said, not accusingly, but with understanding. Yes, Kira's fingers found the device, hesitating. To remove it would reveal her true form-pale, luminescent skin and features that were almost but not quite human. "Do you want to see me? Really see me?" "I already see you," Liam said, his hands covering hers. "But yes, I want to know all of you." With trembling fingers, Kira deactivated the biomodulator. The change was subtle, but profound. Her skin took on a soft, pearl-like luminescence. Her features became more angular, and her eyes shifted to a deeper, more mysterious shade. Liam's breath caught, but his expression held only wonder. "You're beautiful," he whispered, tracing the line of her now glowing cheek. "Absolutely beautiful." Their lovemaking was unlike anything Kira had ever experienced. The empathic connection allowed them to share not just physical pleasure, but the emotional intimacy that made it meaningful. She felt Liam's awe at her alien nature, his desire to protect her, his growing love that mirrored her own impossible feelings. Afterward, as they lay entwined on the couch in his office, Kira tried to memorize every sensation, the warmth of awe. His skin against hers, the steady rhythm of his breathing, the way their consciousnesses seemed to pulse in harmony. "What happens now?" Liam asked, his fingers tracing patterns on her luminescent skin. Kira closed her eyes, reality crashing back. Around her, in 48 hours, she was supposed to deliver her report. In 48 hours, she would have to choose between the mission that could save her people and the man who had awakened something in her she hadn't known existed. "I don't know," she whispered, and for the first time in her life, that uncertainty didn't terrify her. It filled her with possibility. The emergency communication device, hidden in Kira's apartment, crackled to life at 3:47 a.m., its urgent tone cutting through her dreams of Liam's touch. She jolted awake, her luminescent skin immediately dimming as the biomodulator reactivated. In response to stress, Operative Kira. Elder Thane's voice carried through the quantum link, distorted by the vast distance between Earth and the Vorthic fleet. "Your mission window is closing. We require your assessment immediately." Kira's throat tightened as she activated the secure channel. "I need more time. The subject is ... complex. Time we do not have. Long-range sensors indicate human military. Movements that suggest they may be aware of our presence. If the subject poses a threat, he must be eliminated before he can warn their authorities. If he offers salvation, we need his genetic material now." The connection terminated, leaving Kira alone with the weight of impossible choices. Through her apartment window, she could see the first hints of dawn painting the sky, and she knew Liam would be awake soon, probably already in his lab, working on the research that could either doom or save both their species. Her hands shook as she dressed, the biomodulator's pulse against her skin, a constant reminder of the deception that lay at the heart of everything she'd built with Liam. The night they'd spent together, his wonder at her true form, the way their consciousness had merged during their intimate connection felt like a lifetime ago. When she arrived at his laboratory, Liam was indeed there, hunched over a computer displaying the energy readings from their previous day's session. His dark hair was disheveled, and the intensity of his focus reminded her why he was such a formidable subject for study. "Kira," he looked up as she entered, his smile transforming his tired features. "I've been analyzing our resonance patterns all night. The data is incredible. The energy signatures show quantum entanglement effects that shouldn't be possible between human subjects." "Liam, we need to talk," Kira said, her voice carrying a gravity that made his expression shift to concern. "What's wrong?" He stood, moving toward her with the instinctive protectiveness she'd felt through their empathic link. "You look terrified." The irony wasn't lost on her. She was a genetically superior alien operative, trained for the most dangerous missions, and she was indeed terrified. Not of physical harm, but of losing the one being who had ever made her feel complete. "There are things about me that you don't know," she began, then stopped. Through their connection, she could sense his growing anxiety, his fear that she was about to end whatever was developing between them. "Then tell me," Liam said simply. "Whatever it is, we can face it together." The word "together" nearly broke her resolve. Her people had no concept of partnership, of facing challenges as a unit, rather than as isolated individuals. It was one of many things humans possessed that her species had lost. "My name isn't really Kira Thorne," she said, watching his face carefully. "I'm not from the European Neural Sciences Institute. I'm not even from Earth." Liam's eyebrows rose, but his expression showed curiosity rather than disbelief. "Go on. I'm from a species called Vorthik. We're dying. Our genetic diversity has collapsed after centuries of isolation. My people sent me here to study you because your empathic abilities are unlike anything we've encountered. They need to know if you're a threat to be eliminated or a salvation to be harvested." The word "harvested" hung between them like a blade. Liam's face went pale as the implications sank in. "You were sent to kill me," he said quietly, "or to take genetic samples that would likely kill you in the process." Kira confirmed, hating herself for the pain that flashed across his features. "But Liam, what I've discovered changes everything. Your empathic abilities aren't a threat. To my people, they're proof that connection, not isolation, is the key to survival." Liam backed away from her, his hands running through his hair in agitation. How long have you been lying to me? About my identity? From the beginning? About my feelings?" Kira stepped toward him, desperate to maintain their connection. "Never. What happened between us, what we shared, that was real. More real than anything I've ever experienced." "Real?" Liam's voice cracked with betrayal. "You've been studying me like a lab rat, reporting back to your superiors about every conversation, every moment of vulnerability. How is any of that real?" Through their empathic link still active, despite his emotional turmoil, Kira felt his pain as if it were her own. The trust she'd shattered, the love she'd tainted with deception, the fear that everything meaningful in their connection had been calculated manipulation. "Because I love you," she said, the words ripping from her throat with the force of absolute truth. "Because somewhere in the process of studying you, you changed me. You made me understand what my people lost when we chose isolation. You made me want to be better than my mission, better than my species' fear and desperation." Liam stared at her for a long moment, and through their connection, she felt him testing the truth of her words against his empathic abilities. What he found there, her genuine love, her internal conflict, her willingness to sacrifice everything for him, made his shoulders sag with the complexity of their situation. "What happens now?" he asked, the same question he'd posed after their night together, but weighted with entirely different implications. "My handlers want a report within hours. If I tell them you're a threat, they'll send other operatives to eliminate you. If I tell them you're salvation, they'll demand I extract your genetic material immediately. And if you tell them neither?" Kira met his eyes, seeing her own desperate hope reflected there. "Then I become a traitor to my species. They'll likely send operatives after both of us." Liam moved to his computer, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he pulled up files, data. "Research notes. There's a third option," he said, his voice gaining strength as his scientific mind engaged with the problem. "What if we could prove that cooperation, not conquest or extraction, offers the best solution for both our species?" "What do you mean? Your people need genetic diversity, right? And humans have been looking for proof that we're not alone in the universe. What if, instead of hiding or fighting, we created a bridge, a way for our species to help each other?" Kira felt a surge of hope through their empathic connection, mixed with desperate determination. It was a beautiful dream, but one that would require her to betray everything she'd been trained to believe about duty, loyalty, and the superiority of her species. That would mean defying direct orders from the Council of Elders, she said. It would mean choosing you over my entire civilization. Liam reached for her hands, and the moment their skin touched, their connection flared with shared resolve. And it would mean me trusting an alien operative who's been lying to me since we met. But Kira, he pulled her closer. If there's even a chance we could save both our peoples, isn't it worth the risk? As Kira looked into his eyes, feeling his courage and determination flowing through their bond, she realized that her mission had been completed, after all, just not in the way her superiors had intended. She had found the key to her species. Salvation. It wasn't in Liam's genetic code or his destruction dot, it was in the connection itself. The Vorthic communication array hummed with increasing urgency as Kira prepared to make the most important transmission of her life. Through the quantum link, she could sense her handler's growing impatience, Elder Thane's cold calculation, Elder Nyx's ruthless pragmatism, and beneath it all, the desperate fear of a dying species. Beside her, Liam worked frantically at his equipment, modifying his resonance detectors to broadcast on frequencies that would reach the approaching Vorthok fleet. His plan was audacious in its simplicity. Instead of hiding their connection, they would demonstrate it on a scale impossible to ignore. The empathic field amplifiers are ready, he said, sweat beading on his forehead, despite the cool morning air. If this works, every Vorthic within range will experience our emotional bond directly. They'll feel what I feel when I'm connected to you. Kira's biomodulator pulsed against her throat as she considered the implications. Her people had spent centuries suppressing their capacity for emotional connection, believing it made them weak. To suddenly experience the full intensity of human empathy filtered through an alien consciousness would be overwhelming. It could drive them insane, she warned, or it could kill them. Vorthic neural pathways aren't designed to handle that level of emotional intensity. Or it could save them, Liam countered, taking her hands in his. Through their connection, she felt his absolute faith in the power of understanding to bridge any divide. You said your species is dying from genetic isolation. Maybe what they really need isn't my DNA. Maybe they need to remember how to feel. The communication device crackled to life before Kira could respond. Operative Kira. Elder Thane's voice carried the sharp edge of ultimate authority. You will provide your assessment now. The fleet drops out of warp in 6 hours. We must know whether to prepare for harvest or elimination. Kira activated the transmitter, her heart pounding as she made her choice. Elder Thane, I have completed my mission. The subject designated Liam Cross possesses abilities that could indeed impact our species' survival. Through the link she sensed satisfaction from the Council finally. Their operative was providing useful intelligence. However, she continued, my findings indicate that neither elimination nor genetic extraction will achieve our objectives. The subject's empathic abilities are not a threat to be neutralized or a resource to be harvested. They are a gift to be shared. The silence that followed was thunderous. When Elder Thane spoke again, his voice carried the chill of absolute betrayal. Operative Kira, you will clarify your statement immediately. I respectfully decline, Kira said, her voice growing stronger with each word. Instead, I invite the Council to experience my findings directly. She nodded to Liam, who activated the amplification array. Immediately, the air around them began to shimmer with visible energy patterns. The electromagnetic signature of their empathic connection boosted to transmission strength. Kira, Elder Thane's voice cracked with alarm as the first waves of emotional energy reached the fleet. What have you done? What she had done was given her people the one thing they had forgotten they needed, the ability to feel beyond themselves. Through the quantum link, Kira sensed the chaos aboard the Vorthic ships as centuries of suppressed, Emotional capacity suddenly reawakened under the influence of human empathy. But it wasn't chaos for long. As the initial shock faded, wonder took its place. Through Liam's amplified consciousness, the Vorthic Council experienced what Kira had discovered. That connection didn't weaken a species, it strengthened it. That isolation wasn't protection, it was slow suicide. We can feel everything. Elder Nix's voice came through the link, but it was transformed, filled with an awe that Kira had never heard from her people before. The human's emotional resonance, his capacity for love, sacrifice, hope. How did we forget that we once possessed this ability? Liam squeezed Kira's hands tighter, their connection burning brighter as more Vorthic consciousness touched theirs through the link. What had begun as a simple empathic bond between two individuals was becoming something unprecedented, a bridge between entire species. This is what I discovered, Kira said, her voice carrying across space to the fleet above. The subject isn't a threat or a resource. He's a teacher. His people possess what we lost when we chose isolation, the ability to connect across differences, to find strength in unity rather than in solitude. Through the link, she felt the Council's internal debate centuries of conditioning warring, with the undeniable evidence of what they were experiencing. Elder Thane's rigid control cracking under the influence of genuine emotion. Elder Nix's calculating nature softening as she experienced Liam's selfless desire to help a species he just learned existed. The genetic diversity we need, Kira continued, isn't something we can take by force. It's something that must be freely given, born from understanding and cooperation. This entire species, offers us not just survival, but the chance to become what we were meant to be. Liam stepped forward, speaking directly into the transmitter. My name is Liam Cross, and I'm honored to be the first human to make contact with your people. What Kira has shown me, the capacity for connection that exists beyond species boundaries, that's not just your salvation. It's ours too. Humanity has spent centuries wondering if we're alone in the universe. Now we know we're not. Now we can move forward together. The silence that followed stretched for long minutes. Then, gradually, Kira sensed a shift in the collective consciousness of her people. The fear and desperation that had driven their mission was transforming into something she had never expected to feel from the Vorthic hope. Operative Kira, Elder Thane's voice returned, but it carried warmth that had been absent for centuries. You have indeed completed your mission, though not as we anticipated. The fleet will assume orbit and await further instructions. It appears we have much to learn from both you and the humans. 6 months later, Kira stood in the same Boston laboratory where her understanding of connection had first awakened, but everything had changed. The room bustled with activity as human and Vorthic scientists worked side by side, their different physiologies and perspectives combining to create breakthroughs neither species could have achieved alone. The genetic diversity her people needed was flowing freely now, not through extraction or conquest, but through voluntary exchange programs that benefited both species. Humans gained access to advanced medical technology and expanded consciousness capabilities. The Vorthic regained their capacity for emotional connection and the genetic variation that came with it. But more than that, both species had discovered something neither had possessed before, the knowledge that they were not alone in their capacity for growth, love, and hope. Liam approached from across the room, his presence still sending ripples of warmth through Kira's consciousness even. After all these months together, their empathic connection had become the template for human Vorthic interaction, proof that understanding could transcend any barrier. The Council wants to know if you'll accept the position as permanent human liaison, he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Apparently, treason against one species is exactly the qualification they're looking for in a diplomat. Kira laughed, leaning back against his chest as she watched their colleagues, human and Vorthok, working together with an ease that would have been impossible without the emotional bridges they'd helped build. "I think I can manage that," she said. "After all, I've always been good at impossible missions." Through their connection, she felt Liam's love and pride, mixed with his own wonder at how far they'd all come. What had begun as a mission of potential destruction had become the foundation for unprecedented cooperation between species. As the sun set over their shared laboratory, Kira realized that she had indeed completed her original assignment. She had determined whether Liam Cross posed a threat or offered salvation to her people. The answer, as it turned out, was both and neither. He had threatened their isolation and offered the salvation of connection. But most importantly, he had shown them that the greatest strength came not from standing alone, but from choosing to stand together. And in choosing love over duty, connection over isolation, Kira had saved not just one species, but two.